Once upon a time, in the land of Omoda village, lived two orphans, Ikenna and his junior sister Nene. These two orphans lost their parents when Ikenna was 10 years old. Since then, they started suffering. They had nothing to eat and no one to care for them or help them. None of their relatives would want to take them in. All their prayers were for them to die so that they could take over their parents' inheritance. Ikenna and his junior sister would always roam about the village, hoping to see a helper or even disposed food particles to eat. Upon all their toilings day and night, they hardly see what to eat because people hardly trash food in the village. In order to get good food to eat, Ikenna started fetching water and firewood for people in exchange for food. They continued like this till one day, the whole village had a dancing competition among the females. Nene was part of this competition. At the end of the dancing, to their greatest surprise, she won the competition. Nene's victory was a breakthrough for her and her brother. Since then, she started dancing for every occasion, and each time she danced, people would give her lots of money. This money is what they used to feed themselves and take care of their minor needs. People started calling Nene the best dancer. No one ever comes close to her when it comes to dancing. Nene, each time she danced, those watching would feel like she shouldn't stop dancing. It seems like her dancing steps are improving by the day. People started liking her, and each time she danced with other ladies, it seemed like others were not part of the dance because people's attention and focus were always on her. Though they struggled to survive, each time Nene danced together with other ladies, she would share all the money she got equally among themselves. But this was not enough for others. They developed jealousy against her, looking for ways to disqualify her from every dancing competition. One day, the king made an announcement that his son, the prince, would be coming back from abroad. And he invited all the lady dancers in their village to partake in a dancing competition. He added that whoever wins the dance shall be the prince's wife if it pleases the prince to take her as a wife. This created tension among the ladies in their community. They were scared because they believed that with Nene being part of the competition, they had no chance with the prince. After all, Nene would always win as usual, and the prince would take her as his wife. The thought of this was unbearable for them, especially to Wanka, the second best dancer. She believed she could have a chance with the prince if Nene is not part of the dance, as automatically she would win the dance competition. For her to be the winner of this dance, she must disqualify Nene by all means. Then, they started plotting ways to disqualify her from taking part in the dance. Because Swanka and the royal family were in good terms, she went to the king and convinced him to make a strict rule that anyone who must partake in the dancing competition must wear a shoke. She told the king that this would make the occasion colorful and king-like. But she made this rule because she knew the fabric is expensive and there was no way Nene could afford it. The king approved her idea and made the rule. When Nene heard the criteria for participating in the dancing competition, she cried bitterly because she knew there was no way they could afford the clothes. Some days later, Wanka went to Nene's house to visit her. When she came to their house, she saw Nene crying. She felt happy because she already knew the reason why she was crying. She told her that the king is wicked, and she continued by saying that the king should have stated it clearly that he doesn't want his son to marry a poor girl than to put these criteria that are unaffordable by the poor. Nene agrees that she may be right, but she's not coming to dance for the prince to choose her, but because she wants to dance for the royal house. She wept bitterly and later begged Nwaka to spare her one of her mother's ashoke, as her mother has varieties of such clothes. But Nwaka refused to help her. She stated that her mother would not want a stranger, talk more of a poor and stinking one, to share her lapa. Meanwhile, she had shared some of her mother's clothes among their dancers, whom she knew she was better than at dancing. It pained Ikenna that this golden opportunity would pass his sister. He thought of what to do to buy the clothes, but could not think of anything, because the clothes would cost a fortune to obtain one. Because he wanted his sister to partake, even if she didn't get to marry the prince, the experience would be enough for them. He went and leased their father's holy land and purchased the wrapper for his sister, with the agreement that the land would be returned whenever he brought double of the money. When he gave Nene, his sister, the clothes, she was so happy. Out of happiness, she ran to Wanka's house and showed her the clothes. She told her that she would be partaking fully in the dancing competition. This got Wanka annoyed, but she smiled at her in pretense. Then she thought of her next action immediately. So, the next day, she went to Nene's house, stole the clothes and burnt it. When Nene noticed the fabric was missing, she looked for it everywhere but couldn't find it. She decided not to take part in the competition again. This pained Ikenna the most, because he hoped that after the competition, he would sell back the clothes and combine the money with whatever his sister would get from the dance to pay off their debt. Nene decided not to tell her friends what had happened to her. She pretended that everything was normal. 4 days before the prince returned, Nene and Nwaka went to fetch water from the stream. This stream has 2 sides, demarcated by a local bridge. One side is where people fetch their normal water, while the other side is filled with quicksand, and no one is allowed to enter there because many of the villagers who by mistake had fell into the quicksand were sunk in it and no one could see them. News had it that Nene's mother fell into the quicksand and her father, trying to save her, fell in there too. And that was how they both lost their lives. No one could find their corpse because the quicksand was too deep and large, and the villagers lacked what it would take to dig it. The villagers always say that whoever falls into the quicksand has buried himself. When Nene and Nwaka got to the stream, Nene decided to open up to Nwaka, saying that she had lost her uniform for the dance, but her brother promised to get her another one before the competition. This got Nwaka so angry that she thought to herself that the best thing to do was to eliminate Nene, since her brother was bent on doing anything to put her in the dance. Then she took Nene to the bridge side and asked her if she could jump into the quicksand. She told her that if she jumped into it, she would convince her mother to give her one of her ashoke to wear for the competition. Nene refused. She told her that no one had ever fallen into the quicksand and come out alive. She refused to jump. She told Nwaka that she would rather not partake in the dance than to jump into the quicksand. But before she could finish what she was saying, Nwaka pushed her into the quicksand and ran home immediately.